Okay, so in the final moments of RHONJ reunion part 3, Teresa leaves the stage after going, after telling her brother that he basically broke her heart, that it's despicable, they broke the family, that their parents should be ashamed. And you could tell that Teresa is very distraught at that point. Teresa has a great body, but I have to admit that she does appear to be a little bit more frail these days. She usually stands strong and she has like this presence, but to me, she appeared very vulnerable at this reunion, like not by the words that were coming out of her mouth, but just her demeanor. I have to say that. So, she left the stage. Louis follows her. And at that point, I have to give the credit to that person because maybe I would have not noticed this, but I did pay attention because of what she put online. I have to give credit to Your Moms Are Watching. So basically, she did say when Teresa goes backstage, pay attention to who is in the room and what is going on, right? So, oh yes, I forgot. Before Teresa left the stage, they basically talk about the whole cheating rumor and all of that with Melissa, and Andy's asking Louis, so why didn't you invite Melissa to the conversation? And then Louis says, I didn't think of that. I just wanted to talk to Joe. So, okay, fine. So then, I have to say that last week, Melissa said on her podcast that the story was, basically Teresa likes to say that she was not involved in that whole thing, that it was Louis' idea. Louis called Joe, Joe came over, and Louis told Joe alone. But the story, according to Melissa and Joe on their podcast last week, was that when Louis called Joe Gorga to come over and tell him the news of his, the allegations about Melissa's cheating, that Teresa was also present during that conversation. She was physically there. That's what Joe and Melissa said on their podcast last week. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. So anyways, back to the reunion. They're talking about the whole thing. And Andy's asking Louis, why didn't you invite Melissa? Then the subject of Gia comes up. And Joe says that Gia called him and said, you could do better. You could do better than Melissa. And we all think that you can do better. So at that point, Teresa's very upset. And she pulls up her phone and calls Gia. And then Gia picks up and she's like, oh, you have to see the resort that I'm staying at is really, really beautiful. And then Teresa says to Andy, oh, Gia is at Coachella. So I don't know. I just want to say I've been to maybe over 100 outdoor festivals in my life, not Coachella, but some pretty close, you know what I mean? Very big music festival where the music is very, very, very loud. You can barely even hear yourself or your partner or the person that is next to you talking. So anyways, I'm surprised she was able to pick up the phone so quickly. I will say that. So then Teresa basically says to Gia at that point, we're at the reunion and Andy wants to ask you a question. Andy asks the question. Andy says, your mom wants to ask you, your mom wants me to ask you if you call, what did you say to your Uncle Joe? And then Gia explains to Andy what she said to Joe during that phone call. And then Andy asks Gia, did you say anything about, he should leave your Aunt Melissa? And Gia says, no, I never said this. And it's unfortunate that my uncle is trying to set me up as a liar, right? So then the conversation is done. At that point, they wish her well at her little concert. And then at that point, Teresa breaks down, gets up, and goes backstage, right? Followed by Louis. So this is the part that the account on Instagram, Your Moms Are Watching, is telling us to pay attention to. So it's basically when Teresa's backstage, her makeup artist Priscilla is there, and there's another lady, I can't I'm not sure who she is, but there's like a big screen because obviously they're allowed to watch backstage. But then at that point, Teresa calls Gia on the phone, and Louis is there too. Like, he followed Teresa, and Gia is saying to her mom, "You're doing very well, mom. Like, don't cry," and all of that stuff. So, I guess what the account your moms are watching was trying to tell us was that Gia was already watching the reunion from Coachella, right? She was aware of everything that has been said, everything that was going on at the reunion, and she was expecting for her mom to call her as well. So that's what she said to the Instagram viewers. So I just thought I would relate that information back to you guys, because Gia was not surprised. She was not surprised by the call. She was expecting it. And this is the part that I find a little bit sad, to tell you the truth. Like, to be honest, I find this whole thing so sad. The fact that we have to bring the children that are no longer children, but still children regardless, to the conversation. I'm happy that Melissa turned over to Joe and said, you know what, let her say whatever she wants to say. Don't even comment on it. I think Melissa realizes that it's never good to argue with your niece or your family that is younger on TV. It's just like, basically it's like arguing with a senior person, when you're like, you're never gonna win. It's not a good look. So she's just like, you know what, that's her mom, don't lay into her, she's gonna stick for her anyways, so just be quiet, don't say nothing, right? And Joe says, yeah, I'm not gonna comment on that, although I have no reasons to lie. So I just find the whole thing very sad, because Gia at that point is kind of caught between, like, she's stuck between a rock and a hard place. She probably feels like she has to stick up for her mom. And at the same time, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's why it's not really fair. It's not even fair to call Gia at that point. I wish they never did that. She doesn't need to be more involved than she has already been. And the whole situation is just very sad. The difference, though, that I have to say, when, in Orange County, with the whole Brooks situation, Tamara and Vicky, they have been through so much together as friends. And Vicky's daughter, Brianna, she usually rides for her mom no matter what. But when that whole situation happened with Brooke, she couldn't, I guess her integrity was at stake. So she couldn't rally behind her mom and support her, because she was just like, you know what, we're talking about somebody that is, faking cancer. I can't stand behind this. I can't say that I don't see the signs as a nurse, because my credibility, my integrity, that little gut feeling that I have inside of me is telling me otherwise. And, I just can't back you up when it comes to that one, mom, basically, right? So I don't know. I'm not saying that Gia should have done the same thing. I'm just saying that it's very possible that Gia's not telling the truth, right? Because at the end of the day, those kids have been trained to believe in blind loyalty, And one thing that I find very interesting is that after they hang up with Gia, Louis says, when we were in the kitchen, Gia said that if I did say that, the whole we think you can do better. If I did say that, it was just like, it had to do with, like, you can do better when it comes to acting better and coming to the wedding, but not about you or my Uncle Joe leaving his wife. I thought that was interesting that Louis said this, because at that point, it was pretty much a done deal. Andy was like, okay, well, we called Gia and she confirmed that she never said this. And then Teresa's like, yeah, she never, ever said that. But then Louis goes, yeah, but Gia said that when we were in the kitchen, if she did say that, that's what it meant. So which one is it? Did she say it or did she not say it? And now I have doubts, right? And I'm just wondering why Louis is doing that. Because, I don't know. Like, maybe Louis is not sure at that point. Like, they have cameras in their home. They have like microphones. Like maybe he's not sure that a part of the conversation may have been picked up, by the producers. You never know if they're gonna, release that little audio at some point in time. So maybe he's already trying to do damage control. But at this point, the fact that Louis brought it up leads me to believe that maybe Gia did say this. Maybe she did say to Joe, we all think that you can do better. And now Louis is not sure if there's a possibility that this little audio might be released at some point in time and already is doing damage control. Like, I have to say, he's very good at thinking on his feet, like very quickly, right? So